From Periscope, how's it going, everybody? It is the Awesemo.com NHL strategy show. I'm Jake Hari, once again with Nolan Kelly. Nolan, how are you doing? How was last night? How did it shake out for you?
Oh man, I fell a Nick Holden hat trick away from really challenging there.
Is that all?
I had way too much New Jersey one, but so it was a bad night on the whole. Faded Arizona one as well, so that was kind of a killer.
Yeah, the two full line
Yeah,
goals from Arizona killed me too.
yeah.
But I even got the Chikrin goal that I thought I needed, and
Got
then
the chicken goal. I didn't even notice
yeah,
that.
yeah, I got the Chikrin goal, and then
Ah,
I woke up and I was in like 30th place or something. So
ah,
I saw Arizona one scored another full line goal, so I was like, yeah, that sounds
I'll do
about
it.
right. You weren't on your boys Buffalo 3,
I was
so that was a
not. I
little
was
bit
not on
disappointing.
them.
You should have won all the money last night.
Unfortunately, I have an itchy nose here. Sorry. I unfortunately was just like really. I'm trying out a strategy where I'm just like going really heavy on some of the top valued lines
Sure.
for a couple weeks, just seeing how that works out. And so I've been doing like Van one really worked out well the other night, and then New Jersey twice. New Jersey won twice in the past three, and that hasn't worked out so well for those two. But it was okay. Like they scored and they had one goal disallowed. So just kind of trying that out, seeing if in the long run it actually ends up working. But the problem with that is like you don't really end up with a lot of these. If you have a line like New Jersey one, you're not going to pair them with Buffalo three and leave like 5K on the table, right? So
You might. I mean, we'll see that in a minute, but yeah,
yeah,
that's
I mean maybe you should, but I like it's hard to get there, you know.
I think on a 9 game slate, like projections will just kind of not allow you to do that if you're using an optimizer. But like on a shorter slate, if you are full
Yeah,
stacking a third line, that's automatically going to be different. So, I mean, it's worth mentioning at least. Leaving money on the table, we've talked about time and time again, especially on the shorter slates. 6 games, I'm still stacking a lot. Like when we get to like 4 and 3 games, and obviously 2 gamers, then it changes a little bit. But here I'm just treating it as a normal slate. I'm sure you're doing the same thing. I'm sure you've got a couple lines or teams that you're ready to go in on. So we'll get
yeah,
into those.
absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into the games in just a minute. Of course,
Interesting injury stuff. So
yeah, I saw your line changes article. That is a premium article if you guys want to have access to that. Nolan does a really good job of kind of synchronizing or consolidating all the information you need from morning skate that some of the sites might miss, and that can provide an edge. So along with like premium Slack, that's one of the best tools we have. It's an article that comes out, especially on the bigger slates. So just wanted to promote that. I always forget to promote that uh, that article that you do, Nolan. So
oh, it's all good. It's
you
all
got to
good.
remind me to
Hasn't
do that.
actually been really like this year. There hasn't been a lot of stuff going on. So
It'll
other than
just get
the
more and more, right? As the year goes
depth,
on, it'll just get more and more
exactly. Yeah, I
murky.
think that's what happens is that
Yeah.
as the year progresses, it starts to become and you see more changes. It starts to become a little bit more of a valuable tool.
All right, let's talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports for just a second. They are the presenting sponsor of the Awesemo.com NHL Strategy Show. We love playing on Yahoo. Their contests are filling up pretty good tonight. 10.7% management fee in the big $12, $200 to
Cool.
first.
Nice.
I'm sure our boy Seth is going to be grinding out that tournament. How many max? Yeah, 3 max entry. They've got stuff at different price points. You're not going to get the 100K prizes or the 10K prizes that you might see at other sites, but you're also going to be more profitable in the long run if you play on Yahoo. So I suggest you guys go check that out, and when you do, make sure you use the promo code Awesemo in when you sign up to get up to $30 of essentially free money on Yahoo. They're called Yahoo Sports Rewards Points. That is basically cash when you're playing DFS over on Yahoo. And of course, check out their NFL contests. They've got some big ones, namely their 250K baller, 25K to first, flatter payout than you're going to see elsewhere. Again, the 10% management fee, much easier to make a profit in the long run. That extra 5-6%, whatever it is, compared to the other sites, is huge. So, would suggest go and play on Yahoo again. Huge tournaments at different price points. A lot of 10 max stuff. So if you're not using the 150, if you're not using an optimizer, Yahoo's a great place to play a variety of different sports. All right, let's talk about the games. Actually, almost forgot. Lineup study. Let's take a peek and see what
Sure.
happened last night. Usually what I do is just sort by prize pool. couple 100K prize pools that we'll look at. I think maybe the same guy took down, Draft Charts took down one. And then the Prince of Points, man, I can't do it with these names that DK has. Just call it a 25K to first, right? But anyways, that's another reason I like Yahoo. Don't have to deal with the crazy tournament names. B. Kreider, very good player here. Had some success, huge success actually lately, especially last night. How about this? The Derek Ryan, Sam Bennett, Johnny Gaudreau, Mark Giordano, Mangiapane stack takes it down in the what was the entry fee on this? $215 yesterday. They were always changing around their price points on DraftKings with Boston 1. Man, that is a weird stack. So it's a full Calgary 3 with a Gaudreau 1-off and then Bergeron, Pasternak, left off Marchand in favor of Gaudreau, it looks like. Fit in Weber and Giordano. So interesting lineup construction. B. Kreider oftentimes does the 3-2-1, and it looks like essentially a 4-2 here. So interesting, even though it didn't work out with Gaudreau, just that differentiation and the ability to fit in two stud defensemen with Bergeron and Pasternak is kind of what set him apart here. He was also second in the big $15 it was yesterday. Familiar names at the top, dollar bill, again, B. Kreider, Draft Charts, 1-800 Eddie, our own 1-800 Eddie, only playing 80 lineups, but he keeps competing and getting in like top 10, top 15 finishes. So,
God, it's like he's up there every single night.
Yeah, yeah, man.
I find like a lot of his teams. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to do a deep dive. Let's do a deep dive on some of his teams one day. But it's like he's really good at finding those low owned lines to stack with the top owned line, to stack with an expensive, somewhat chalkier but highly projected line, and then still fitting in D as well.
Yeah, so that's exactly what he did, actually. Just taking a quick look at his top lineup. Boston won with that same Calgary 3, Derek Ryan, Mangiapane, and Sam Bennett. So that line didn't do a ton, but it was just enough to, if you had the right defenseman, if he would have had, let's say like Subban and Giordano like he had in some of his other lineups compared to Krug and Shea Weber, that's like, he's probably leaving like close to 20 points on the table just eyeballing it there. And all of a sudden you're talking about a stack that could have won a tournament. So just a different defenseman pairing away from, I think he probably would have shipped second place in this. So I don't think anybody was beating Draft Charts last night. Let's look at what he did. Your boys, Buffalo 3 on the road in LA, a team that I had been, I thought I was wrong about. And they kind of laid an egg last night. But Buffalo 3 with Boston 1. Boston was the nuts pretty much across the board. Mark Giordano, Rasmus Ristolainen with his Buffalo 3. Don't often see a 0% owned player, but Connor Sheary was a late addition to the lineup. It was supposed to be Evan Rodriguez, so it looks like this guy just popped in Sheary, and he scored a goal right away. Middlestat had 2, and that was it. Basically the only person that was on Buffalo 3, and it worked out. So there you go. There's the case for full stacking and playing some of these depth lines, even on big slates. It does work out. Man, this guy does not play a lot of the chalk. Really, like almost none of his lineups above I'd say 60-65% ownership, total ownership on a 9-game slate. That's I wonder if he does that on purpose, but really I think a pretty good night for some of the pros. Of course, some of them not so well, but that's life. That's the MME life. All right. Anything more you want to talk about, or you want to go into these games?
No. I just I've been reading a little bit about how to approach these slates now, and I'm thinking more and more that the 3-2-1 is viable. I'm going to try that a little bit tonight. I think you have to be willing to adjust. And, that's pretty obvious, I guess, for some people. But I'm just I'm so used to double stacking, but I think we're that 3-2-1 makes it more viable, and I think a lot of people. I think it's the 3-3-2 has almost become a victim of its own success in some ways, just because it's so popular now. And then you also get the differentiation option you get the higher upside, higher projected lineups, and you get differentiation in the 3-2-1. So I'm going to try it out and see how it goes and track the results. What you've been dabbling a little bit as well?
I have. I'm not sure where I'm at right now with that. Like I see a lot of pros still running just 3-3. A lot of players that I really respect. So it's always been viable, I think, 3-2-1. But with the bonuses, I think it's a little bit more viable. That's not to say that I think I would like be abandoning 3-3 if you guys like that, even on a 6-game slate. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't have any like hard, fast rules about stacking. It's just kind of how I feel the slate sets up, how I can get the highest projected and hopefully highest correlated lineups as well. All right, let's talk about 6 games here. Nice little slate on a Friday. We've had good luck with the scheduling this week. Hopefully this keeps up in the next coming weeks. Avs and Panthers. We've got Philip Grubauer going up against Sergei Bobrovsky. 6.5 total here. 3 to 3.1 going to Colorado. About 3.4 to the Panthers. We got some big news on the Colorado side.
Yeah, so it's fascinating spot here for DFS because Nathan MacKinnon's a true game time decision. If he doesn't go, it looks like Nazem Kadri will go up to that top line between Landeskog and Rantanen, giving them some added value, but obviously they're not as good. JT Compher centering Donskoy and Burakovsky. Nichushkin probably jumps into the lineup on the 4th line there. Of course, if he does go, everything would just slide down probably to the way it was before. And Nikita Zadorov as well is coming into the lineup after getting, I think he was benched last game out. So there's another one, always a nice cheap punt play there. So two thoughts on this one. I'd like to hear what you think. Option 1 is that like McKinnon's absence weakens Florida weakens Colorado to the point where Florida becomes more viable, and I think that you're kind of more likely to want to stack up Florida 1 and 2. The flip side is if McKinnon goes, you're probably going to be getting Colorado 1 full stacks at probably sub 5% ownership. What's your thought process on this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways to approach it. So on the Florida side, for me, it doesn't change that much if McKinnon plays or not. I'm not sure it's a huge defensive upgrade having Kadri with Landeskog and Rantanen compared to McKinnon. I also I wouldn't mind playing Kadri with Landeskog and Rantanen, but the problem with that is that I think there's a pretty good chance that McKinnon plays, and if he does, you hope that people have Kadri and Landeskog and Rantanen and they're MMEing and not paying attention to line rushes. So we'll see. Again, Florida doesn't really change much for me if McKinnon goes or he doesn't go, but I agree with you. If he does go and he is with his normal line mates, it's not enough people I think are going to swap over to get McKinnon. It changes the entire nature of stacking that line with McKinnon being so expensive compared to Kadri, because right now it's a good optimizer play with a good total here for Colorado. So you like that, but I think I'd like it even more if he does play. And you might get the full line, like you said, at like maybe 5 to definitely under 10% ownership, I would think. So we'll see what happens, but you got to have interest on really both sides of this for a number of different reasons. I think right now my favorite line is probably Florida 1, Barkov, Huberdeau, Dadonov. They're fully correlated. I prefer them over the second line. We've seen the second line have success in recent games. But I also would have interest in the Kadri, Donskoy, Burakovsky line. If McKinnon plays, it kind of bumps all these centers down, and you would be able to stack Colorado 2 for super, super cheap. And again, a combination that probably not enough people are going to have in what should be a pretty high event game.
Well, I like that call a lot as well. Put like Colorado 2 as well. It's a pretty talented line. I'm pretty high bullish on Burakovsky just generally. I feel like he's kind of underrated. So that's all 3 of those guys have some offensive upside. Florida, not great defensively. And I'm guessing, I don't know what you think for hard matching. It'd probably be Barkov up against McKinnon.
Yeah, I didn't see them do, it always depends on the matchup earlier in the season. I haven't seen a ton of teams hard matching, which is kind of frustrating. I always like hard match situations because then it gives me a chance
You add
to,
it in, right?
yeah, exactly, add more information that people might not know. But I think for the most part, you're probably going to see Barkov, Huberdeau, Dadonov against Landeskog, Rantanen, and whoever's centering them. I don't know. It's going to be a hard match where they play like 10 minutes of even strength ice time together, especially if McKinnon's not in. But yeah, that's generally what I expect to see, with a shade towards this being more of just like rolling their top two against each other.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a great call. And how do you approach this when you're building? Like, so will you just wait for the information to come out and then just restack according to or recrunch according to what the news is?
Yeah, so I'm gonna crunch once with McKinnon in, and mess around with the stuff in Fantasy Cruncher. Yeah, and then I'm also gonna crunch and see what I should at least like just be aware of what I think my exposure should be once I actually see what the line combos are going to be. So just preparing for both situations, I think is key here. If you're multi-entering, if you're not, then you might blow up your entire lineup if all of a sudden McKinnon's in and you're in a small field tournament and you think no one might have Colorado 1. I think that's a pretty interesting option to go to.
Yeah.
How about defensemen here? Cale Makar, Keith Yandel, any guys getting a lot of time with a certain line here?
Yeah, so Cale Makar's actually got a lot of ice time with Colorado 1 last time, and Sammy Girard, who continually, I think, is probably underappreciated in DFS circles, has some offensive upside. Quarterback's the power play too, I believe. So both those guys viable, though. Like, Makar just doesn't really project out well for us right now. I feel like not registering a ton of shots. I just crunched a bunch, and I think I got exactly 0 shares. Yeah. So that's just kind of a little bit telling to me, though. I got more Girard than I did Makar. So though I do think there's upside there, right? Obviously, you have the power play 1 correlation.
For sure.
So and he's a talented player.
Yeah, the $5,200 price tag is tough when he hasn't been super active so far.
I didn't realize he was that high. That's a bit much.
Yeah, so I was like, man, why am I not getting any Cale Makar? And that's kind of why. Like, I think he's more of like a mid 4K.
Undeserved too, right? Like, I'd rather go with. There are a bunch of other options I'd rather go with.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and then you've got Yandel on the other side, 5,300. You're essentially playing him for power play here. I don't even know how much he's going to skate with Florida 1 or Florida 2 for that matter. I mean, he's 5,300. I can't really recommend playing a lot of Yandel here. There's just other defensemen that I like better. I think as a contrarian, like, if you want to do this intentionally or unintentionally, I think getting some Ekblad with Barkov, Huberdeau, and Dadonov might actually be the play for 5-on-5 correlation.
I like it. Just looking up some power play stats here. We'll get to the Oilers in a sec. But my God, they're at 45% right now.
Yeah. So that game, I already know that game's going to decide the night for me one way or the other.
I think I know where your head's at.
So, all right. Any goalies you want to mention here? Grubauer, Bobrovsky, nothing really jumping off the page for me.
I think like Bobrovsky's viable. If McKinnon doesn't go, and you want to throw some Bobrovsky into your stacks, like, I feel like the perception is, of course, Colorado, great offensive team, and so without him, you got to bump him up a little bit.
For sure,
he is pretty reasonably priced at $7,500, and I just like the Florida side of this. If he's not going to go. So.
Yep, Bobrovsky, $7,500. You're a home favorite. Maybe the implied total against scares some people off. Just want to get a quick peek at ownership and see if there's anything unexpected here. Yeah, we just got it right as the show started. Bobrovsky, one of the most popular goalies on the slate. Didn't expect to see that. Yeah.
All right, then. I was not expecting it. I guess people are not expecting McKinnon to play.
I mean, goalie is tough, too. Yeah, and especially if he doesn't play. That's just going to mentally make people feel better about playing a $7,500 goalie, but it's not outrageous ownership.
We do not have him in our ownership projections right now.
Who, Bobrovsky?
No, Nathan McKinnon.
We don't. Yeah, he's not listed on FC. Okay. So it's gonna be pretty low. Like, I would guess it's gonna be lower than what we have Kadri. We have Kadri in double digits right now.
Okay, got a question for you, because I never seem to get these lines right, even though I'm generally high on them and I shouldn't be. Florida 2, Trocheck getting about half the ownership of Florida 1, especially on the full correlation there, probably far less. Do you like Florida 2 a little bit more in that scenario? I feel like they always get less ownership and do go off at a fairly decent clip.
Yeah, they're fine. Not a priority play for me, but if you're on like double mid-tier lines together, or I
Yeah.
guess, they're pretty fairly priced with
Would
Connolly
you
in there
rather
at
have Florida
3,400.
1 15% ownership or Florida 2 at 5% ownership?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Are they really? Is Florida 1 really 3 times as likely to break the slate as Florida 2? I mean, probably not. So I don't think they're over-owned. Like right now, I'm probably closer to the field on Trocheck.
Yeah.
I just did a bunch of 3-3s before the show, and yeah, not making a major stand on them.
And not to belabor this game too much, but this has like fish night written all over it. Here's what's going to happen, Jake. Nazem Kadri is going to center the second line.
Oh, for sure.
And they're going to get 3 power play goals, and Kadri's going to get all of them, and the fish are going to win all the money. And just like last night when Pat Mahomes went out, some dumbass won 100K with Kelsey and Hill and no Mahomes. So,
did he really?
Bitter. Yeah, I think so. It was Chiefs D, Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, no Mahomes.
Unreal, dude. That guy probably wasn't even watching the game. Like, he was probably just woke up with 100K in his DK account. I would love to run that pure, but haven't yet. So we'll see.
Just run that.
Yeah, maybe one time I could run that pure in any aspect of life, not even DFS. All right, let's go to Dallas and Pittsburgh. We've got Anton Khudobin and Matt Murray in net. Some line movement towards Pittsburgh here I've noticed throughout the day as I've been loading in projections and trying to put in updates. The total has moved down. I think it was at 6 earlier in the day. It's now at 5.5, with about 3 goals going to Pittsburgh, a little over 2.5 going to Dallas. Do we see any line changes here?
Sorry.
Dallas won.
Dallas, yeah. So we got two major things here. The first is that Jared McCann's a game time decision. So if you're looking for a pivot point, is good to go. He'll likely skate in the second line with Cahoon and Hornqvist. I like that. I like throwing him into a couple lineups if he does go at like 0 ownership. He just seems to like break slates at an inordinate amount of time. I don't know why, but he always seems to get those 2 goals. Probably just my own personal bias. Then on the Dallas side, they've broken up the top line again. So you have Ben Radulov and Jason Dickinson. Radulov, Sagan, and Dickinson. Ben Rupe and Corey Perry on the second line, and then Faxa, Pavelski, and Janmark probably used as more of a checking line. I'm guessing that seems to be how they're deployed, though. You might know better than I. So this is an interesting opportunity to try the 3-2-1 stack as well. If you wanted to go with Sagan and Radulov and leave off Dickinson, I think that's probably not a bad move because he's not on the power play. Though I'd imagine that will be a pretty popular move.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like you can always leave off the guy that everybody leaves off, but at what point does it become profitable in the long term? And that's something I always struggle with, to leave on the so-called scrub. I don't know that Dickinson is a scrub.
It's all really about the scoring because we've seen it like depending on the scoring last year, it was way better to leave on. Like especially like I loved rostering lines where it was a good line, but one of those players was always way under owned. So it was like the Tavares line with Hyman, for example.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah,
2% ownership. Well, like the guy's good and he scored like 20 goals last year, right? So I don't know. Just seems like sometimes lines get full correlated ownership. Like Florida 1 will all be around like the exact same ownership, 14 to 15%, because people are going to add all 3 of them in. And then there are those lines like Wilson, Ovechkin, and Backstrom where Wilson's half the ownership. So maybe the right call here as we delve more further into this is to roster those low lines with the low owned guy and break up the lines that everyone assumes are pretty correlated, right?
Yeah, and maybe we live in a bubble too, like where the stacking, like this talk about stacking or less stacking or what early in the season. I mean, we're 2 weeks into the season. Like, yeah, I think there's been a little bit of an overreaction, at least what I've seen. I've also adjusted or at least tweaked my strategy a little bit. Like I ran almost exclusively 3-3s, and I'm still not against doing that. I might even be doing that tonight. But like, everyone's gonna leave off. Not everyone, but a lot of people are gonna leave off Dickinson. But you see all the time where it's like, man, if you play Sagan and Radulov and there's a full line goal, but Dickinson scores, and all of a sudden, all the Dickinson people are way ahead of you. It's like if that line becomes the nuts, even if Sagan and Radulov are the ones doing the majority of the scoring, like if this guy gets in on it, it's going to be hard to find a $3,100 one-off or similar lineup construction that you can get to this $3,100 player that's highly correlated to two really awesome players. So it's something I struggle with. I go back and forth with that.
I think the other thing as well is like one of the reasons why people are shifting is because stacks just haven't gone off yet on the way that we're used to, right?
Right.
That's true.
No, 100%. I mean, we've had slates where Eichel, one comes to mind where Eichel was like 40%. He had like an unassisted goal, and he had like 3 points, I think, and his other line mates combined for 1, and he's the chalkiest player on the slate. Like, all the people that played Eichel one-offs or had cashy builds, that's going to kill the people that stacked Buffalo 1. It's happened with Matthews a couple times too, where he's had multiple points and his line mates haven't really gotten in on it. So I think we've had some weird slates. We've also seen 4-3-1s win. We've also seen 3-3s win last night with a really low-owned Buffalo 3. Like, it happens. So it just depends on the slate. I think we're going to have a lot of slates that stacking 3-3 really works or 4-3-1 works, and that's all you see in the top 20 of the leaderboards. And I think we're going to have a lot of slates where cashier builds and 3-2-1s and power play stacks are the nuts too. So that's NHL DFS. I think the scoring doesn't change that much for me.
Yeah.
All that being said, I think I'm going to leave Dickinson on my multi MME builds because I think he's going to be
let's check out his ownership here while you analyze the rest of this game, because one note as well, Pittsburgh won 35% ice time share. I think with Malkin and Galchenyuk out, this line's just going to be getting a huge chunk of the ice time. So I will probably have some here. What's your take?
Yeah. So earlier when I thought it was going to be Ben with Sagan and Radulov, it was, you just expect Crosby to have a huge workload, and he still is going to, but a little bit more of a balanced top 6 for Dallas. Maybe he doesn't hard match against anyone. I really love the matchup for Crosby, Gensel, and Simone against mostly anybody, but Sagan and Dickinson, when they've been together, kind of been a disaster defensively going back to last season. Shortish sample, but there's really no line I'm worried about the Crosby line going up against. Plus Dallas is taking a lot of penalties, and you get Crosby and Gensel top power play. Plus, I kind of like Simone, and I like that people leave him off. Same thing, similar to Dickinson. So I think I'm going to full stack it. Their numbers at 5-on-5 going back to last season are pretty crazy good for Pitt 1, and just insane workload for Crosby and Gensel especially. Pair them with Letang if you want. I think there's a bunch of defensemen that are probably in play, with Letang being the obvious number 1. Schultz a little bit overpriced, but he actually was playing in the top power play, so that's not a guess there. But even Dumoulin and Marcus Pettersson, like, those are punts that I think are viable tonight that I'm going to have a lot of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like Pitt 1. If you wanted to go Pitt 1 with Hornquist or something like that, power play stack, I think it is a pretty good power play spot for Pittsburgh, especially when you factor in the backup goalie going for Dallas here. Anything else?
No, I'm right there with you. I feel like the 3 implied total for Pittsburgh scares me off a little bit, but so much of that is probably just because of that top line anyways, that I'm cool with going with them, though I feel like they're clearly not in as good a spot as some of the other high-priced lines we talked about.
Right, they're not, but like, this isn't like the nut spot, quote unquote, but like, they're half the ownership or less than half the ownership of Washington 1. They're half the ownership right now of Edmonton 1, and I think in smaller field stuff, like, that's even going to be higher. So I really like Pittsburgh in smaller
Great point.
field stuff.
Crosby just getting no ownership tonight. McDavid 3 times the ownership of Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I like that pivot. All right, let's move it on to the Rangers and the Capitals. Henrik Lundqvist going up against Braden Holtby. Well, what do we have for totals? It's a 6.5 total for the game. A little over 2.5 going to the Rangers. About 4 going to the Caps. First of all, anything new here?
Yeah, just on the Washington side of things, switching up their bottom 4 D pairing, Orlov with Jensen and Michael Kempney debuts with Radko Gudas on the 3rd pairing. So Orlov's actually been really good. I was just looking up some expected goals for data this morning, and he is 4th in the NHL in expected goals for so far in this season. So I think there's a reason. Like I've seen like a few sharps on him early. He's getting loads of minutes. He's getting some time with the top unit. He's only $3,700. He's not getting ownership. 25 minutes last game. So I kind of like Orlov a little bit. And no word on the Rangers side. They played last night, obviously. I think it was either no skate or optional morning skate. So double check those line rushes because you never know when something is going to change here. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this one because, both of these top lines are in pretty smash spots. I think the Rangers aren't projecting them as well for us, but Washington one certainly is, and they're going to get their share of ownership tonight.
Yeah, Washington one is kind of the play for me tonight. I think if I had to choose between them and Edmonton right now, at least for me, it's Washington one. Just the Rangers have been so bad at 5-on-5. You don't expect them to be good on the PK either. And, I mean, it's just an elite spot for Ovechkin and Backstrom especially, and then Oshie, top power play. Like, this is everything I think you look for in a line if you're just making one lineup for DFS tonight. So I also don't want to leave out Carlson at 6,700. Like, yeah. I think people will play Backstrom, Ovi, Carlson. I think people will play Backstrom, Ovechkin, Oshie. But I think it's going to be tough for at least a lot of people in tournaments to play all four guys. So I'm trying to do that as much as possible. I like to play all four of the big guns. And, if I get burned and it's, power play after power play for the Caps and Kuznetsov is getting all the goals on PP1, that's going to suck. But I think, I don't know how Ovi doesn't score here. Like, at least once, it seems like a lock. And I know there's not locks in NHL DFS, but right now we have him as...
It's a great spot for them, for sure.
So we've got him right now as the chalkiest player.
What's that?
He's the chalkiest player in the slate, as he should be, I think.
Yeah, but it's not going to be like the top owned. I mean, like he's going to get his ownership, but David and that Oilers line is still going to get their share. So I'm with you though. I like Washington one more than I like Edmonton one, which is really the debate that you have to get into on this slate outside of McKinnon and maybe Pittsburgh. But those are going to be the two lines that everyone goes to tonight. I'd imagine about probably 40 to 50% of lineups in GPPs are going to have one of those two lines. Yep. So if you want to fade both of them, then also not the worst idea in the world if you want to get contrarian. But I forgot what I was going to say. But
anything on the rag side?
What's that?
Ranger side?
Oh yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think? Like, because we've targeted Washington a lot too over the years or over the last year. Do you like the Ranger side here? Too pricey, back-to-backs, lower totals?
Yeah, the back-to-backs worrisome. The low totals worrisome, but it's another situation like Pittsburgh where I think they're going to ride their top line pretty heavy. And there's also a good price, just solid pricing on the second line. So obviously you want to stay in the top six if I'm playing Rangers. I didn't find it too difficult to get to their top line. So, I don't think I probably over targeted the Caps last year in terms of playing lines against them. This year I've kind of backed off of that just a little bit, but I still think it's a fine spot for Rangers one. They're more of an MME play for me than anything. They would, they're probably like 7th or 8th for me tonight or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to, if I'm making one lineup tonight, they're not going to quite get there for me. But I do like Trouba, 5,600. And, I wish Tony D was playing on the second pairing. I wish he was getting top 4 minutes. He's been getting okay minutes, but I just worry that those are going to go down. He scored a goal last night, but only played 17 and a half minutes about. So I was getting way too much of him. I'm probably going to bump him down just a little bit in MME, but that's a guy I like to punt with a little bit.
Yeah, I got a lot of him as well. He's just got some offensive upside. He's got some skills, right? Yeah. The one guy I like maybe as a one-off as well is just a sneaky under the radar play is Chris Kreider in a 3-2-1. I feel like that guy can score out of nowhere.
4K for the top power play. On a pretty good power play unit. I think that's a nice just call there.
6% owned. So I kind of like him. Him and Vetrano I think are my favorite cheap one-offs tonight.
I like him, man. All right, let's go to. Oh, we didn't really talk about Caps too. They're. I mean, I play everyone basically. Kind of joking, but I do play a lot of lines in MME. They're actually higher than I thought. Like right now, I'm over 10% on them.
Damn.
Yeah, they're up there. I think it's a really good 5-on-5 spot here. So I don't even mind leaving on Hagelin for 3,200 if you're doing 3-3 builds tonight.
Kuznetsov, 8% owned. Am I giving too much ownership away here? Should I keep this secret?
It's early in it. I don't know. We're I think we're getting people interested. So yeah, whether you have FC Pro,
that whole line is going to probably come in about 5% total, which is pretty nice in this spot. Some talent on that line too. So
good pivot if people are going to tilt Washington 1 if Washington 2 is getting all the goals. It seems like that happens all the time.
Wish that Hagelin and Verana would switch spots.
Oh yeah, I would love that if they did. I'd be really heavy on Washington 2. But
what was wrong with the Kuznetsov, Verana, Oshie line? What was wrong with that?
Nothing was. Yeah, man. I don't know. Even if Verana was on there, that would make a big difference for me. That might be one of my higher owned lines of the night in MME.
Yep.
All right, Blue Jackets and the Chicago Blackhawks. We have a 3 implied total for the Blue Jackets, 3.5 to the Hawks. This is an 8:30 p.m. start time, so I don't know if we're waiting on any news. I might be wrong, though. Anything?
I didn't really see anything from this, though, so I didn't see any Beats tweeting anything, though. It's probably just because they haven't played in a couple days, though. Nothing on the Chicago side. I think nothing on the Blue Jackets side either. Did you see anything?
I didn't. Yeah. So that was an actual question. I wasn't teeing you up for anything.
I don't think we're getting any changes here. So everything looks the same.
Fair.
But feel free to. I didn't actually confirm. I didn't see any confirmation tweets. So feel free to hit me up if you see any.
Yeah, I'll let you know. But yeah, I think it's going to be pretty normal here. As far as ownership, I expected Columbus 1 to be up there, one of the more popular lines of the night. It's a great spot on the road in Chicago. The only thing I think that could be better for Columbus 1 here is really just being at home, but then they'd probably be the chalkiest line of the night. So 3 total, probably keeping their ownership down from astronomical levels. But Columbus 1 is clearly the play for me. I mean, you can play Columbus 2, but Wenberg, that situation, maybe he's going to start shooting. I'm not even sure. But I like 1 and then 3. I think I'm going to be over the field on for Columbus. And then speaking of third lines, I do like Chicago 3 in multi-entry formats. Yeah.
They're deep tonight. I like it.
Yeah, I think a little bit deep. Nothing crazy here. But they've played well together. I think they're going to see some time against the top 6 for Columbus to kind of free up Kane and the Tays lines. And Kubalik, I think I'm still going with Kubalik until someone corrects me there. But he's 3,100, and I don't think he's on the top power play. I think that's incorrect. But, he's going to be on a power play, and he's $3,100. And I like Saad and Camp, too, and they're just dirt cheap. So Chicago 3
is practicing on the top power play in it.
But I think someone was gone or something. Like someone was missing, maybe Strome or something like that. I don't remember.
Dylan Strome was working on face-offs. Gotcha. That's probably where that comes from.
So be careful with the power play 1 tag. You actually, I guess you might prefer him on power play 1, but the second power play, at least you get him and Saad together if they get their 40 seconds or whatever, if you get a dead puck on a power play.
Let's say, though, it could be possible. There are a couple tweets here saying he was out there instead of Strome. So, I mean, I like that call a lot, especially if just by fluke he gets to be on the power play. That's a super cheap line. That's also going to go totally unowned here, I think. Hey,
Chicago 3.
Yeah,
I think so. All right, what else do we have here? Chicago 2 and 1. I thought I was gonna love Chicago 2 this morning when I was looking at stuff, and I just can't quite get there. Maybe it's the second power play for Shaw and Strome. You're really getting Kane, so it's I don't know. Kane is really popular here. It's a good spot, no doubt. I mean, the total says it all. But I just prefer getting to a Washington 1 or Edmonton 1 for that matter, I think, over the Kane line. And I think a lot of people will power play stack it. I'm seeing Tays is popular, so people might go to Brinkat, Tays, and Kane. If that was a trio that we knew was going to happen at 5-on-5, then yeah, they would be up there with Washington 1 for me. But Chicago's just kind of tough to stack with their
Chicago
top
keep
two
getting
lines.
ownership too.
Yeah.
Raw 10%, strong 13. So like that's a fine fade for me. I don't know. I'm not super on them.
Yeah, I'm not fading them, but I'd be surprised if I end up overweight on any of the Chicago lines outside of the third one. So we'll see.
Yeah, King 20%. I feel like a lot of people are going to just be popping him and Ovi into their
Not a
lineup.
bad strategy in cash, but yeah. For tournaments, I value the correlation, of course. Werenski and Jones, really good 1-2 for me. Those guys are probably going to skate a lot with Columbus 1. I think you can play either one with Columbus 1. Obviously, you get Jones on the top power play with all those guys, but Werenski rarely gets played, and he's a pretty good value for us, still at 4,800. So those are the two guys I'd be looking to. Like to play a lot of power play one guys. You guys always hear me mention the top power play quarterbacks, but don't mind dipping down to Werenski for $4,800 here. Any Chicago defenseman you like? Seabrook, Seabrook, Keith, Gustafson.
Yeah, I think Gustafson's reasonably priced. I was actually going to look at Gustafson because I feel like his ice time's down a little bit from start of the season. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he started up at like maybe mid fives. Now he's under 5, so not a bad spot to take advantage.
So no, his ice time's down though. He was at 25 minutes a game to start, and now he's been 15 for the last 2 games.
Whoa, so 15? I didn't catch that. Wow.
That's, he's he's like a guy that goes like up and down. I feel like like sometimes he's just in the doghouse. I don't know. Like there was towards the end of last season, he was just like he was
a beast.
Yeah, and then I don't know. So I don't know. I'm off him tonight. I think it's a fine play at that price point, but I think they're just places I'd rather go if there's a chance he's only going to get 15, 16 minutes.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to another fun game. Detroit, Edmonton. This is a good slate, man. Like this is going to be really fun, I think.
There's a lot of just so many good lines in good positions, but also priced up to force you to make some decisions, right?
Yeah. I like a lot of things about this. So we've got Detroit and Jonathan Bernier expected to go against Mikko Koskinen, who is confirmed for the Oilers. $8,200 Mikko Koskinen coming off a great performance. 2.7 total for Detroit. Did I mention 3.8 for the Oilers? Can't remember if I mentioned the totals. Anyways, do you want to talk about what happened with Detroit yesterday?
Yeah, so it looks like Darren. So right before the lock, we got for some reason they switched up Darren Helm and Bertuzzi. I think was it Bertuzzi or Mantha?
Darren Helm with Bertuzzi, I believe.
Bertuzzi, yeah. So they switched those up. I don't know what the reason was. I can't remember. One of the
Stupidity was the reason.
Oh, it was stupidity, right? So yeah, I mean, anytime you have the best line in the NHL by the numbers, you got to break it up as much as possible. We saw this with Detroit multiple times last year, so I don't think they have the slightest clue what they're doing. But we don't really know. Like they had an optional morning skate. Helm wasn't suspended for a slash on Lindholm. When Helm went out, he was ejected last night. They did put that line back together. They're reporting that line's back together on Daily Faceoff, but I have no idea. Do you have any info on that?
I don't. I just see that Daily Faceoff has it listed as the normal Detroit one. I'm a little bit wary about stacking them up tonight because you're going to be forced to either swap or put in Helm, and then there's only one more game after this to kind of pivot to if you wanted to get a stud defenseman in. So there's just kind of a lot of guesswork on the Detroit side. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's Helm again. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Bertuzzi either. So it's just a tough situation because I think it is a good spot if we knew Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Mantha were going to be together for extended time, and that's the trio I want to stack anyways. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just stacking some Detroit one. I'm probably not going to be in a great spot if they go nuts, but I certainly don't want to be left off of it because where else are you getting like the goals here outside of those 3 guys is my thought.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be I don't know if people are going to go to it or not after that Helm news, or if they even know what happened, if a lot of people know that. So I'm assuming most people will just stack them up though, like stacked up the top one.
But it's like, all right, where do you pivot to? Like Athanasiu.
If Helm goes, you mean?
What's that?
If Helm goes, you mean? Like where do you pivot to if you've got those 3?
Well, no, you could pop in Helm, but now you're just making suboptimal lineups. Or I guess the way I think about it is like I'm just messing up my portfolio.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I guess really what you could do is just like, let's see. So Darren Helm 3,300, Bertuzzi is 5,300. So I think maybe what you do is you set it up so that you can just pop on Kasha and like make it a 3-2-1 stack.
Fair.
So you go like Larkin, Mantha, you pop in Kasha, and then you have a 3-2-1 setup.
Yeah, but then the thing about that is like people are going to have Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi together, so you're going to miss out on one of those guys, and now you're.
No, I'm saying you put Bertuzzi in, and then if he's off that line, then you swap.
I got you. Smart. Yeah, that makes way more sense than what I was thinking. I was thinking you would get dominated out of it. Like if Detroit one is the nuts and you don't have one of their guys, I'd feel like just the biggest donkey in the world.
Yeah.
So
it could happen too. Like I'm sure we're going to talk about the Edmonton side of things here. Edmonton's shooting percentage right now 15.64, two full points clear of the next closest team in the NHL. Their power play is almost at a 50% clip right now. They are going to come crashing back down to earth very shortly. I don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah, and like I don't know if I want to bet against it tonight, but they are priced up. They're popular. Are you betting on regression tonight, or are you loading up on the Oilers?
God, this is the worst game of the night for me because it's like a late game, so you might be in a good spot. Everything about the even strength numbers is telling me to fade Edmonton here because, like I said, when you're paying up for these lines, you're paying $16K for two players, and yeah, they're two awesome players. They're going to be projected super high on the slate, so I get it. I get the appeal and wanting to go super heavy on McDavid and Draisaitl. They're amazing. They're on this lethal power play right now, but everyone's just so priced up. Like we've got Pitt 1, we've got Washington 1, we've got the Chicago guys if you like them, and you can't like you're just foregoing those teams if you stack up McDavid and Draisaitl together. Like there's almost no chance you can fit those guys in if you're trying to stack. So what it boils down to for me is just like, all right, well it's a great power play spot. They're probably going to score 2 power play goals here based on what they've done so far. They're going to come crashing down, like you said, at some point. Maybe this is the spot they do it. Doesn't seem overly likely, but if they can just not be fantastic at even strength, I think I'm going to be able to be okay playing, like I mentioned, Pitt 1 or Washington 1 or one of these other big lines that's cheaper and I think in a better 5-on-5 plus power play spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, really, it's not a question of whether or not they go off. It's a question of whether or not they go off to the point that they're beating the other expensive.
Exactly. Lines. Yeah, because it's going to be tilting when they get a power play 3 minutes into the game, and you get McDavid to Draisaitl with Nugent Hopkins assist. The power play stackers for Edmonton, the Edmonton power play stackers are going to be going nuts, or Neil or whoever. But they're just so expensive. They're just lines that are so good tonight. That I think are going to be so good every time they are out on the ice. I'm not saying McDavid can't score at 5-on-5, but for this price, you are just paying so much for a good power play matchup.
I'll make the case for them though. All Zach Kassian, Leon Draisaitl, and McDavid all top 30 in the NHL and expected goals for thus far to this season. So it's not totally fluky, just that their price is built in, but it's deserved, I think.
So there's also Cliffy sent me this the other day. There's been some confusion about how expected goals and high danger chances has been tracked this season.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I'm wary of using those stats right now until it gets straightened out. I've been more relying on scoring chance data. And
do you know offhand? Maybe you and Cliffy can go over it on the Monday show there. But do you know offhand, like they are tracking data from different distances?
Yeah. So I think there's speculation. I don't exactly know how it works. I'm not plugged in like Cliffy is, but it's possible they're tracking from where the player's jersey is or something compared to where the puck is at. So they showed one where it's like Arvidsson is like standing on top of the goalie, or I think it was Arvidsson or Johansson or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they said it got tracked at like 9 feet out, and it's like he's in the blue paint, like he's in.
I wonder if that stuff would even out though over time.
I don't. It might, but just expected goals. Everything's down across the board, so it's tough to get a grasp for if that data is actually good data right now.
All right, there you go. So that's a good grain of salt there. So,
Not saying McDavid and Draisaitl should not be up there in expected goals, because they're going to be regardless of how bad the data is. Like they're gonna be nuts.
Absolutely. One thing as well, I noticed just randomly while I was looking at this, Dallas's shooting percentage 6% so far this year, last in the NHL. There's going to be some serious regression coming.
Oh God, don't tell me that. Jeez.
And it's happening tonight.
I've already lost enough.
You pressing the lock button on Tyler Seguin.
Yeah, Jesus. All right, Mike Green, I like for 4K. Not wild about Cholowski or Hronek.
Man, popping in the projections all season long.
Yeah, you were on Mike Green a couple nights ago, and he's had a couple good nights.
Yep.
All right, let's go to the last game. Try to get out of here on time so we can practice for NBA next week. If you guys want to,
nice, I like it.
Yeah, if you guys want to join, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. So Carolina, just one change I think on the fourth line. Brian Gibbons, I think his name's sent down Trevor Ben Riemsdyk making his debut tonight. I'm not seeing many differences. Dougie Hamilton listed on the second power play unit, but for all intents and purposes, that second unit's actually getting more time. So just so you're aware that it's not like he should be taken down a couple notches because of that. So on the Anaheim side, I don't think there's going to be any changes. I didn't see any from last game as well. Looks like we have mostly the same lines here. So yeah, that's about all I got for this one. Brendan Gooley might come back, but it's probably not going to be tonight.
All right. Let's see. This is the lowest implied total. Yeah, 5.5 here. 2.85 or so going to Carolina. 2.65 going to the Ducks. But I kind of like this game. Yeah, I kind of like this game all around. And specifically two lines. It's the Getzlaf line and the Aho Niederreiter Teravainen line. Those are my two favorites here. No shock if you guys have watched our show for the last year and change. Aho Niederreiter Teravainen together. That's my jam. So the only issue with them is just that they're not fully correlated on the power play. But for this price, I think I'm okay with that. Just over 15K to stack on DraftKings. I think it's a pretty solid even strength spot. I haven't seen Anaheim doing a lot of hard matching. So I'm hoping Getzlaf and Kasha and Comtois stay away from each other, at least for the majority of their ice time, because I think both of those lines are going to be solid at 5-on-5. The Getzlaf line is fully correlated. Again, it says PP2, but it's more of an even split with the Ducks. Getzlaf and Kosh, I would consider that the top power play. So it's going to be more even than anything. And it's not like I'm looking to stack up D-men with Anaheim like I would be for Carolina with Dougie Hamilton. So it's a little bit clearer for me. I like the forwards on the Getzlaf line. And then, once again, Carolina won, man. I think, is this the night everyone's going to be off of them and they go nuts? Not a big total, but let's see where they're at in ownership, because I think it's going to be...
It's going to be low.
Yeah, I like it. It's low, so without giving away too many freebies, it's pretty low. Low enough for me to really enjoy playing a good amount of them tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. My only real concern is just Gibson. I think that's most people's concern with playing them, and that's why they're low owned. Gibson's just been on fire. His save percentage is 945. His high danger save percentage is fifth in the league at 920. He's just been a wall so far. Save percentage is 957. Sorry, I think that's right. That's 5-on-5. Never mind. So that's just I don't know. He's just so good. He's an X factor, and it's that's why I'm kind of looking at the biggest total here and less at the individual numbers, because I think you have to. That's sort of where his effect on the game is factored in.
Yeah, man. Anything else you want to mention before we head on out of here?
I think that Anaheim 2 line is underpriced. I'm curious. It looks like they're getting a little bit of ownership here. But I think Kasha's popping in our projections a lot, I want to say.
They're not. Yeah, I mean, they're closer to where Carolina's at. So I like this game.
Yeah. So I think they're good values. Kasha's just 6% owned. I think as far as a 3-2-1 stack, why not go with Kasha Getzlaf if you're looking for a 1-2 punch that's super cheap. And then you can add in another winger. So
I agree, man. Way too cheap for, I think, a pretty talented line and a good distributor
No,
in Gets
none
Up.
of this Enrique nonsense tonight. It cost me too much money.
Yeah. I'm going to be left out of that party once again, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see, did I get him at all? Man, I got one share out of 150. Oh, boy, I don't even feel comfortable with that. I need to get like a few shares. I hate just having 1 or 2 shares
They're
of a
hot
team.
right now, man. They're hot.
They are hot right now. There's no doubt about that. They were the nuts last slate, so can't argue with that. All right, that's going to pretty much do it. We've got NBA coming up in the next week, and a lot of guys doing really good work on our NBA product. So you guys are going to want to join that. There's an early bird promo code going on right now. I think it's $100 off. Is that right, Nolan?
$100 off for NBA.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
Nuts.
So go find that NBA promo code. Click around in some of the preseason articles. EMAC, Adam Scher, Fast Eddie Fear, Josh, Chris Spags. I mean, just the dream team we've got over here. So you're going to want to join for NBA if you're not already an all access Osmo Plus member. Of course, you can use promo code Hit the Ice for 50% off your first month of the monthly all access package. If you want to get all the sports, which I would suggest, add on FC if you want. Would highly suggest that as well. Get FC Pro, lineup study, all that good stuff. And
I got one more announcement here too. Matt Harmon coming on the contrary tomorrow. If you play fantasy football, you're on. Matt Harmon, pretty popular guy there over on Yahoo, in charge of the reception perception creator. He's the guy who did that. Super nice guy. He's going to be a great guest. 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Alex Baker, Chris Baggs, Matt Harmon. Check it out.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun show, as on the contrary always is. So check out our weekend content as well. Osmo Odds show if you want some college football talk from Ben wasn't on it this week, was he? Or was he?
The Odds show?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it this morning.
That's right.
So
you and Ben. It was you and Ben. That's right.
You and Ben. Yeah, we got a couple good. Ben's got some good bets in there, so he's usually pretty sharp when it comes to that college football stuff.
I think he's got a couple free articles out there. So if you're looking for some freebies, there you go.
Yeah, that's good.
And then, of course, shout out to Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. They sponsor us. Go support them. Use the promo code that we provide in Emacs Primetime articles. When you do so, you're essentially getting free cash to play daily fantasy over on Yahoo. Thanks for joining, guys. Enjoy your Friday. And I will be back tomorrow, I think, for a stream, probably right after On the Contrary. So good luck. Let's make it happen.